Okay.
All right. Hi, everybody. We are
The Knitters Are Here.
And today we're trying to articulate and be a little louder but not interrupting because we are at Ocelot Cafe in Richfield, Ohio. We decided to get together just to kind of chat and knit, but there was a conversation that started to form on our Facebook page, and we thought it might be an interesting topic to do a podcast on. So we thought we would give it a try. And Allison, do you want to kind of take the lead on that?
So the topic is stashing yarns. So I was kind of losing my knitting mojo there and felt like my stash was weighing down on me. So I put out a message that many of you might have seen on our group saying, hey guys, what do you think? How should I do this? Blah, 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 blah. And that's where it started. So Nancy Eisenstein from North Coast Knitting Go made the suggestion of getting the book A Stash of One's Own, which is Clara Park's book. If you don't know Clara Park, she puts out the Knitter's Review newsletter, which has interesting observations on when she tests different yarns and tries washing them, etc., and how she likes them. But aside from that, she also does the Knitter's Review calendar, which has knitting retreats from all over the country and even some foreign ones listed on it. So it's a good place to look for that kind of stuff.
So let me wrap my head around what we're talking about. So you lost your knitting mojo, got looking at your stash, started to feel guilty about not using your stash, and then started doing some research?
Yeah, basically. Also, because of an earlier book on the topic, The Joy of Yarn, which I got for Christmas, I decided last year to reorganize my stash and organize it by color instead of by weight, which probably most of us do. And
did that help?
No.
Why?
Because I don't do a lot of color. I think that would have been great if I did a lot of Farrell making up my own color schemes, but as these guys certainly know, and anybody who's seen me in the yarn shop knows, I'm not very good with color. So what I found was, well, do I have enough to do this sweater? And then I had to go searching in different colors to see what I had. And anyway, it just started to overwhelm me.
Did that create an issue because now you're not sorted by weight? You're sorted by color, so when you were looking for colors, then was it like, oh, I get this is perfect, oh, it's the wrong way? Did that what you ran into?
There was kind of that kind of thing, and then just realizing I don't really do that much color, or not a lot of colors.
So do you still have it organized that way, or are you back to weights?
I went back to weights. And one of the reasons I did it by color was I had won some of the raffle baskets at Pittsburgh and got a lot of bits and pieces, skeins,
like one skein wonder type deals.
Right. So,
which is how I bought yarn when I first started buying.
Well, we all bought yarn that way, especially like when you go to a fiber festival and you like, oh, I don't have a project in mind, so I'm just gonna get one of those.
Surely I'll be able to find something to do with it.
And now I have 9,000 one skein wonders. Like how many?
And they're beautiful, and I love them.
Yeah, I do too. They're like trophies, but
some of it's souvenir yarn.
It does weigh on me having it. You know, I do enjoy having it surrounding me while I'm at work, and I can be like, oh, it's so cute, city, like artwork. But then I feel guilty, like I should make something with that. But then it's just overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and so anyway, I did look around a little bit, and in Clara Park's book, it's a combination of, like, I think 13 different essays by well-known knitters as to what they regard is stash, because not everybody's definition is the same, and then how they manage it or not. But just to start off, there's some interesting quote-unquote statistics from Leela Narji. So she has done some writing, the book Knitting Around the World, probably her best known one. So she did this study, which isn't totally scientific. She looked at all the knitters on Ravelry, and not every knitter's on Ravelry, And she said 5% of Ravelry users post that they have a stash.
Only 5%?
5%.
5%
So-
of all the knitters on Ravelry actually post their stats. Well, I don't post my
Liars.
stats.
I don't either.
I don't know. Exactly.
She's the only
So-
one of us that actually posts her
And
stats.
I don't always keep up to date, so you can see how these numbers that I'm about to give you are a gross underestimate.
Wow.
Okay, well, the most stashers live in California, followed by New York and Texas, and abroad.
I feel like I can challenge that.
Abroad, the ones who stash the most are the Germans, followed by the French, and then the Nordic countries.
Because they need it.
They
It's
need
colder
it.
there.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting that the biggest states, some of the bigger populated states, are the bigger stashers.
and you wouldn't think they do that much in California.
California,
Northern
yeah.
California, though.
Well, maybe they
Or
just
Texas.
They just collect it. Maybe they don't actually use it like us.
So, on the Ravelry, there are 20,647,000 skeins that have been stashed.
Well, that's my stash. It's not. It's really not.
This this averages 68 skeins per person. I assume that's over the whole Ravelry.
Yeah.
The weight is 8.4 million pounds. And
Weighing you down.
yeah,
Wow.
and 5 billion yards.
Wow, that's a
And
lot.
So can we look on Ravelry for a sweater with that, when it says, in the filter, like yardage? 5
billion yards. So,
That's a big sweater.
and the most popular yarn stash is fingering. So, of course, these
Yeah.
are obviously gross underestimates, yet astoundingly large numbers.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
So,
I feel like it just was at work hearing a presentation. I love it.
Darcy, you kind of nailed it at the beginning when we briefly chatted before starting that we might walk away from this going, I'm not that bad.
Right, like
I'm not that bad.
because we were talking about like all the places that I have yarn stash, right? So I've got several big Rubbermaid tubs in the basement, packaged up. Got a whole closet that's full of yarn, and then all of the yarn that's actually out in like showcased in my office. Like there's a lot that's just kind of weighing on me of like I really should use that.
Okay.
Now I don't feel so bad because everybody else is doing it too.
Just to break down your stash a little more, those tubs that are in the basement, aren't those mostly chunky yarn that you bought for when you were teaching knitting classes?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
I've since used and swapped it
Okay.
with
Okay.
Fiber Festival collections.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I think I've got you all beat because I can fit all my yarn
You can
in a
beat
box.
her?
No, I could just fit it in a box.
Your
The house is a
house.
box.
My
Your
house is a
house.
box.
I think it was Franklin Habit, or he quoted somebody, and I don't remember who he quoted, saying that, it was Nietzsche he quoted, that a house is a stack of stuff with a roof on it.
Stack of stuff with a roof on it. Okay.
Not
I
too
think
far from the
aiming at
truth.
minimalism.
Yes.
So a couple of these famous knitters' essays summed up as this. So Kay Gardner, who is one of the, Mason-Dixon knitters.
Mason-Dixon.
But didn't they change that?
The name?
The name?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think they did.
Modern Daily.
Modern
Yeah.
daily knitting, yes.
Anyway, she says, she's a minimalist, she says, that her stash has undergone changing, but for her, yarn equals joy. And she buys only if she can cast on immediately.
Oh.
However, she does have, she says, about
I could
6
cast on
things.
about 57,000 projects and meet that demand.
She says she does have about 6 things on needles, but she still ends up doing yearly purges. Now, part of that is going to be yarn companies sending yarn to her, and that was a
yeah.
recurrent theme through a lot of these because they're in the profession. But yarn companies send them yarn, and so that's a separate kind of commercial work stash,
Right. Yeah.
compared to their own.
Oh, gosh. They have 2 stashes.
Ooh, 2 stashes.
So, like,
Well, I kind of have 2 stashes. One that's for my business and the one that's just for me.
Okay.
So Stephanie Pearl McPhee, another author who's a hilarious person.
Yes.
Yes.
Admits to a huge stash, useful as inspiration and remembrance. But when the stash exceeds psychic energy, it feels like a burden, then she will cull.
Okay.
And again, she has a commercial stash. Now, Meg Swanson, Elizabeth Zimmerman's daughter, had a very different idea of what a stash was. She viewed her stash as what she had inherited from her mother.
Oh.
Her mother's sample sweaters, bits and pieces of cast-on, bits and pieces of design papers, but still, she ended up giving those away at the knit camps.
Oh.
Right, because how long can you just hoard it?
Yeah, and then the people who
Till death do us part.
had been at the knit camps also probably knew her mother, or at least knew her through
Right.
her
Yeah.
books
So it
and
had
patterns.
sentimental value to multiple people.
Right.
That was nice.
Now,
Yeah.
Franklin has it. His essay was called Pretty String. So he grew up gay in a male world and had a tough relationship with his mother because of that for a while. But then kind of through college, etc., realizing that he actually was becoming a successful
Fiber artist.
fiber artist, yeah.
Okay.
She actually decided to even have him teach her how to knit.
Oh,
And their relationship totally changed.
Aww.
And he views his stash as his relationship with his mother. That's what that is.
That's awesome.
And then so several authors, and I'm not going to go through every one or anything.
And
Several-
this was in the first book that we
This
talked
was
about, or in
in
Joy.
A Stash of One's Own.
A stash of one's
all,
own.
yeah,
Okay.
all so far that I've said has been in that. A lot of the knitters talked about how you might get to a skein and you can't give it away even though you're not making anything out of it because it's a memory.
Like when I buy souvenir
Souvenir
yarn.
yarn, yes.
Exactly, when we go out of town or when a certain event happened, that it's really tough to give away that kind of thing. So,
Did any of this research give you your mojo back?
I think culling my stash is probably giving me my mojo back because now I have the freedom to go buy something that represents me now instead of in the past.
Versus what you were 10 years ago.
And without the guilt of, are you gonna knit me? Me,
Yeah.
me. Me next, me next.
So when you went through your stash,
Uh-huh.
did you use like the Marie Kondo method of like,
Does this
brings
give me
me joy, doesn't bring me joy, this goes in the giveaway?
No, it was more, am I realistically going to use this? Even if I like the yarn, but I didn't have enough of it for what I wanted in it, or if it was souvenir yarn, but it's been a long time since blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So actually, a hint out of that second book, the one, Joy of Yarn here, Marie Greene, you know, she goes into different ways of sorting your stash and how to decide about what to keep and so forth. Saying that, you know, you could sort by color, by weight, by project, by emotional attachment. And then she goes into different ideas of how to store that stash. And we're not going to talk about all those, but that's a good source for that.
There's patterns in here too to help you get rid of the stash.
Got a lot of nice things in
So,
there.
Yeah, I have that book on, I have both of these books on my e-reader. I don't have a physical copy. I wonder if that's a mistake.
Yeah, I think you need a physical copy
physical
because you
copy.
need to add to your stash a book.
Right, yeah, because God knows I don't have
I
enough
have
books.
those too.
oh, I can't remember who said it, but one of the authors was talking about, we are hunter-gatherers.
Yes.
True.
You like that's an excuse.
I'm very good at the gathering part.
I am definitely a hunter-gatherer because there's lots of things I like to have.
Yeah,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
have a
Collections
beautiful
up.
collection.
Yeah.
I want to know, have you reduced your stash yet?
Yes.
And how do you feel now?
I feel much better. There's hardly anything in it.
Do you have this like urgent desire to go buy more now? To replace the things that you
Not
let
to
go?
replace, but to get what I really wanted, you know?
Okay, so was your stash visible to you? I mean, like, did it?
On an everyday basis,
Yeah.
did you
No,
walk past it and see it?
although it's in clear containers, it's on my loft.
Right, so it's not something that like, for me, every time I walk into my office, there it is.
There it is, yeah.
Okay. See, I have mine very hidden away because the majority, I shouldn't say the majority, about half of it is in a big old cedar chest. So the lid is closed, I can't see it. Which, the bad part of that is, I have no clue what's in there for most of it.
I wanted to get my hands in my
I know.
I really want to know what's in your stash.
We have talked about like emptying my stash and getting together and going through it. And it's
Laying it
really
all
something
out.
that,
Yeah.
So
you know,
we
I
should
truly
do that,
need
like,
to do.
we
That
should,
might be a
before
to be
you,
continued.
as part of like the de-stash process, is that you bring your stash to your friends and you have a de-stash party.
If your friends are willing to let go of it.
If they're, well, you have to use your convincing words to say why they should let go of this, and you will
It'll be
prove
good
it.
for you.
You will
You'll live
And part
longer.
of this book that I've started both of them. I haven't finished either one of them. One of them is inventorying your stash. You know, going through and
Knowing
looking
what
at
you
what
have.
you have. And I mean, it's like, and I think
do
that's
a photo inventory.
Right.
Which would be a good reason to break down and do, like, have a stash party where we all sit and inventory our stash in Ravelry and swap and trade and be
Or maybe
part
come
of
up
it.
with, somebody who doesn't want to give away their stash but has it, to bring it so we can say, you could do this with that and put these two together to do this.
Yeah, you have,
because
Or make
when
an
you,
art project
when you
with
have
it.
a lot of one-hit wonders, you need to figure out how you can use that, and that becomes part of the burden of the stash.
Right.
Is not having, like you said, the stuff that you actually need to complete a project or whatever. I have all these one skein, things that it's like, okay, what do I do with one skein of this? Now, some of my stash comes from having been part of yarn clubs, where I would get a skein or two in the mail every month or whatever, and they would come with patterns for one skein of yarn. But it's
How many
like a lot of,
shawls can you have?
exactly, a lot of it's
Right.
the same thing over and over and over again.
Right.
Different, I mean, I'm not saying they gave you the same pattern, but
Yeah.
like you said, how many
Type.
shawls, how many hats, how many whatever can you use with this? I probably need to do something more like with your tip needle and schlanket.
Yeah.
Where you go from
But I never
color
wear
to
that
color to
thing.
color to color to color.
But then I feel guilty because I don't wear it.
Now, this
Or
book,
use it.
this book actually says your stash should be visible,
Yes.
whether it's in clear containers or wherever. And everything from clear containers, cubicles, hanging basket, or remember that coat tree I had?
Yes,
I hung my,
yes.
And I even have like my
basket
yarn
on.
advent, I have like a
hanger.
ribbon through it.
I did that.
It's hanging, it looks like art.
Yes, I did that with
A
mine.
couple years ago, I remember going through my stash on a spring break, and I downsized a bit, and I took it when we went up to solder. They
Yes.
had, it was either a free table or a buy-sell
Buy and
table,
sell.
and of course, I sold stuff, and then I just turned around and bought other people's stuff. So that didn't solve my
Didn't solve the problem.
But something I do clothing-wise is I keep an empty tub in my closet, and if I pull something off the rack to wear, and I'm like, I throw it in the tub because I'm not ready to let it go yet. But if it's
And stays in the tub for long
until
enough and
I
you
switch
forget
out
about it.
clothes,
I do the same thing,
and then I
yeah.
pull it out. I haven't worn that the whole season. I get rid of it. Very rarely
Now,
do
see,
I
I'm
regret.
that way where I'm like, every time I slide it across to get to something else, I feel guilty that it's still hanging there and I haven't worn it, but I'm not ready to like let go.
But if
Yeah,
it's
put it in
been out of
tub.
sight
Yeah.
for so long, so I'm thinking I'm going to do that with my yarn when summer comes.
That's a good
because
idea.
I'm feeling like it was interesting when you posted that. I started feeling that too, and it's just like there's some yarn like I just, darn it, I paid good money for it.
Yeah.
It is gonna be something.
And then you make it into something and then you're dissatisfied with the
Yeah.
thing that you made. It doesn't bring
That's
you
a
joy.
feeling we all have to let go of.
You're having that right now with a project
Yeah.
with some yarn that you have. You've tried to make it into two different
I
things.
visioned it to be one thing and it didn't work out, so now it's like I have to find a pattern for it and it's not working, and I just need, and I don't hate the yarn, I just need to put it out of my mind.
I suggest you frog it, reskein it, and wait.
Yeah, It just needs weight. But I think when summer hits for me, or when I have a weekend, I'm gonna grab a clear tub so that I can still see it and inventory what's in it. So I'm not going, where's that one skein that I put? So I know where it is. If I go, this is the perfect project, where is that? And if it sits in my storage for a certain amount of time, then I never needed it, and it belongs to somebody else.
Right.
It's not mine.
If I may,
You
this
love
book also goes through some interesting ideas about managing your stash after you've inventoried. What you might actually need to do is buy some additional yarns so you can use your stash, like buying totals or
Something to
basic
marry with
color.
it.
Yeah. And then if you're in love with one skein, as Marie Greene suggests, ask yourself 2 questions. Is there enough to make a hat if you don't find something else to do with it? And then, is there somebody who would wear that hat?
Okay, so then that brings me to the 1 skein or 2 skein I got of McMullen at Yellow Springs.
Okay.
I look at it every day. I love that yarn. I want to make another shirt out of it, but I don't have enough to do that. If I made a hat with it, I would be dissatisfied with it.
So you need to add something.
So I need to add to it, but now I have that fear of it's been so long, if I get 1 more skein of it, will it match?
Right. So you might be better with a neutral or bordering color.
Yeah, that's true.
Then the other thing that comes into play too, I love going to fiber festivals. I love going to
Right.
yarn shops. But when I walk in the door of a yarn shop, I feel like I have to
You
buy
have to
something.
buy.
And I realize I am not the only
But I think
person
you would
that
find
day to buy
most
something.
yarn shop owners don't have that expectation.
But I feel guilty.
I know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, case in point, today is local yarn shop day, and we're here in a local shop,
Purposely not being
purposely
at yarn
not because we don't like our yarn shops, but
We love
because
them.
this is an issue for us, right? We're always
Trust myself in what I know.
acquiring, but we're never letting
Well, my
go.
name is Jennifer and I'm a yarnaholic. So right now is the hospitalization period. I'm not strong enough to be in the bar, AKA yarn shop, without giving in to my addiction.
Right.
Right.
Well, and a lot of the stuff that I have in stash is stuff that I bought years and years ago that no longer is something I would knit with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I need to let that go so that I do feel less stress when I go to a yarn shop and buy something new.
So it can fulfill its destiny.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, I have a lot of chunky stuff that I got to make quick and easy hats that, guess who hasn't made quick and easy hats?
You did
She's
make
making
some.
a fingering sweater.
You
Yeah.
donated. You made and donated
did.
some.
Yes, and I have more yarn for that express purpose of making hats to donate.
Yeah.
And I just need to get
Another
on it.
nifty idea from Marie Greene is, remember, you can double yarn.
And that's
Well,
what's great about fingering.
I do that a lot with the fingering stuff that I've had. Like that last Advent I used up to make the poncho, I doubled 2 together to use it up for a
And you can find things online about this plus this equals this
Yes.
weight, this
And I
plus
think
this
that's even
equals that
in
weight.
one of those books, isn't it?
It might be, I don't remember that.
Sometimes double fingering makes DK and sometimes it makes worsted, depending on your knitting style.
Depending,
So
yeah.
guess what you have to do? You have to gauge. Sorry.
And then she also talks about if you decide that you want to keep something or you frog a sweater, how to deal with frog yarn. You don't leave it in a cake. You put it back in a hank. And that kind of-
Okay.
Yeah.
So these 2 books I would recommend highly if you're interested in.
Thank you, Nancy,
with
for the
your-
suggestion.
Your stash. But so do you guys all sort by
No.
weight?
I throw everything in a
sort it all?
bin. No.
I throw everything in a
This
bin.
one's pretty, it's gonna sit here. This one's even prettier, it's gonna sit
Yeah,
here. There
yeah.
is no
There's
sorting.
no organization
I
to
sort
my
by weight.
stash.
There's no sorting.
But I guess one of the things is we shouldn't feel guilty about these yarns. This has been our pleasure to buy them.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to feel guilty about not using them, then you should give them away.
Well, like someone wise once said, if you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, it was meant to be. If it wasn't, it wasn't. So if you love that yarn,
How's it coming back to me? I thought the
Right.
point was for it to go away.
like the joy of giving it away, what's coming back to you
I
is
know.
the joy of giving it away.
It's being very
just-
literal.
Yeah. Or what is it? It's better to have loved and to lose.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with something.
I give my stash to Jen, she makes stuff and gives it back to me.
That's true. That's exactly
I'll make sock tubes. Give me fingering, and I'll make them to fit all kinds of things.
Yes. Oh, yes.
We won't talk about that right now. Okay.
Fun. Awesome.
So I know you.
So now I want to go home and see what's in my stash and maybe start with the organizing part of it, see what I have. Then separate it by what doesn't bring me joy.
You know how different organizations do ice bucket challenges?
Yes.
Maybe we need to do a yarn stash challenge.
Yeah.
Of like,
Well, like what? How,
This book
what do you mean?
actually-
Like on our
Step
Facebook
by step
page,
through it.
how about you take a selfie with your stash and put it on our Facebook page?
How it's
I'd like to see how big that is.
or what you might do in the way to de-stash. You know, whether it's
It might take multiple photos, we understand that.
it's a process, and we're willing to do that too. And like I know I'm not going to for the next month because this is the last month of school, but just kind of getting into that process. But I'd like to try that.
And this book does take you step by step through sorting your stash, inventorying it, planning it. It is, it's not a quick sit down, read it, and go through it, though you can do that. But if you're actually going to follow it, then it's going to take you some time. It's not a, okay, I'm done.
Depending on the size of your stash, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we started the year with Stash Dive 2025, so we're going to keep that theme
We're going to
going.
keep the theme.
Yeah.
Yep, that's our goal.
Well, we don't want to make this too long because we're just going to keep repeating the same information, but we'd love to hear from y'all. Feel free to post your comments below or check us out on Facebook. If you're new, check out our old episodes. They're a conglomeration of all kinds of things.
You can have a stash of old YouTube.
Yes.
Yes. Watch our stash.
Jinx. But thank you so much for watching. Once again, please like and subscribe. We appreciate you all. And
Oh, and come to the Ocelot Cafe, they make everything
Oh my gosh,
in-house.
it's so good.
Great stuff with very pleasant company.
yeah, it's a great
Yes,
place.
it's a neat place.
Richfield,
Yes.
Ohio. Come check it out.
Corner of
Wheatley.
Wheatley and 21.
Yeah.
Right off 271.
Very close to the national park, so you can have a nice coffee and bakery and then go hike it off.
Yep.
Yes.
All right.
All right, well, happy knitting, everyone.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.